The poll that Washington Post and ABC News conducted, the results of the poll indicate that 6 out of 10 voters have no confidence in Barack Obama. They have no confidence in his economic policies. I think this is the most unsurprising study ever conducted. And the reason why is because, and I've said this from the beginning, he abandoned his progressive voters and he didn't really follow through on the things that he said he was going to do. He was an advocate for change. There was no change done. I mean, he compromised with healthcare reform. He's compromising with the financial reform. So this study is unsurprising to me.
Well, of course, I agree with you, but what you just said is interpretation. It's not in the poll. Of course, this is a dumb poll. Where do you agree? Do you approve what he's doing, or do you not approve? And 60% disapprove, but you don't know why. Do they think he's doing too much, not enough?
Well, there have been previous polls on those issues for specific issues, and I think that's the critical distinction here, is because I'm sure that right-wingers and conservatives love this poll, and they think it confirms their position, when in fact there's always that certain percentage that was going to hate him no matter what.
Right.
And what this really reflects is how many, like Anna said, how many people in the base are disillusioned and disappointed. And I'm sure the apologists would say, oh no, he's made changes. We passed historic healthcare reform, and we're going to do financial reform and this and that, but it's not significant change. And they would argue that, well, he's doing the best he can within the system. There's some merit to that, but it's also, that's complicated, but I disagree with them.
I think Obama's supporters, as I sort of mentioned, are upset at the fact that he has compromised on so many different things. Definitely, like when you think back at the whole healthcare reform debate, right?
Right.
The fact that he first came out with the whole idea of a public option and said, I am going to push for a public option, and then he started compromising with the Republicans and how he keeps saying that he wants to be bipartisan and all that stuff. All of his supporters are not for that. All of his supporters want him to actually follow through on the things that he promised when he was campaigning.
Yeah, I think, and I could be totally wrong, and they definitely shouldn't listen to me, but if he had fought for the right things and lost and got no legislation passed, I think I would have preferred it, and I think a lot of people would have reacted positively to that. If he fought and stood up for real change in a meaningful and positive way.
Absolutely.
Even if the Republicans then shot it down, well, then you take it to the next cycle and try it again.
Right.
But there's plenty of bad news for Republicans in this poll. How much confidence do you have in either Republicans or Democrats to make the right decisions for the country's future? Democrats win handily over Republicans in that.
It's funny because when he was campaigning, he said nothing about compromise.
Yeah.
Like he said, oh, I want to work toward bipartisanship, but he didn't really focus on that. The main focus of his campaign was change.
Right.
Change you can believe in. We got to do things differently. It hasn't been working so far. And as soon as he becomes elected, it's like, okay, what can I do to cater to the Republicans? No, don't cater to the Republicans. They don't like you. Their voters don't like you. You're not going to get anything out of it. Please do what your voters wanted you to do.
Not only catering to the Republicans, but catering to the system and the establishment, which has conventions which you can only operate within certain strict limits, and he's not trying to push any boundaries, so it is disappointing.
And the perfect example is if you look at healthcare, a lot of people will say, well, look, a public option was unrealistic, right? That's what you wanted, but that was never going to happen.
But a federal mandate is realistic.
Well, no, but even the most basic negotiator knows that you never start with your opening offer that you hope to end with. Like if you're selling a house and you want to sell your house for $300,000, that's what you want to end up in the bank. You don't list your house for $300,000. You list it for $320, for $350, for $400, right? Because you know that in the process people are going to negotiate it down, and then in the end you hope to end with $300,000. With healthcare, they should have opened with single payer. Of course, it never would have passed. But you start with single payer so that after the Republicans chop it down, and the conservative Dems, the corporate Dems chop it down, hopefully you end up with a decent public option. But what they did is they started with the public option. So they started with a half a loaf. And then, of course, that half a loaf got cut into another half a loaf, and now we're arguing about crumbs.
So you're saying that he should have used the car salesman model. Start with an insanely high price because you know your customers are going to grind you. And then you allow them to grind you, and by the time they're finished grinding you, it's at a reasonable price, and you still make commission off of that sale.
Exactly.
That's exactly what car salesmen do. So it's funny that you mentioned that.
All right, one quick quiz for you. So one of the questions is, do you approve or disapprove of the way Obama's handling These 6 items: oil spill in the Gulf, economy, healthcare, commander-in-chief, budget deficit, financial industry. In which of those 6 do you think he scored the best?
In which of those 6?
And I can repeat them if you want. The oil spill, the economy, healthcare, commander-in-chief, federal budget deficit, or regulation of financial industry.
I'm going to say commander-in-chief, he scored the best, and I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I'm going to say healthcare.
No, that Tom is correct. He scored best, and 55% approve of how he's doing as commander-in-chief. In no other category did he even get to 50% of approval.
Right.
I don't know what to I'm still trying to figure out what this means. People in America, first of all, are sick. They have this obsession and fascination with commander-in-chief and military stuff. And we all criticize Obama. He's continuing Bush's wars, in fact, escalated Afghanistan, and it's working for him.
It is working for him.
So that's why he does these things.
And I'll tell you why. It's because of what you hear in the media constantly. It's the fear-mongering that we've all grown accustomed to. It's, you know, we got to keep our country safe. Oh, look at this Times Square bomber. Oh, look at this Christmas Day airplane bomber. Like, all you hear about are these, you know, terrorist attacks that are blown out of proportion, and Americans become scared, and the first thing that they think about, the number one priority they think that our politicians need to have, is national security. So whenever they see Obama escalating these wars or being tougher in Afghanistan, they approve it because they think it translates to him keeping our country safe.